to Blood Moon Radio. I'm Coralie, and this is where we follow the threads the world wants us to drop. Today's episode is a storytelling episode. It's Yule themed, just in time for the holiday season. I hope you'll enjoy The Lantern Wife. The Lantern Wife, a winter tale for Blood Moon Radio. Winter had come early to the valley that year. It swept in without ceremony, laying down a sheet of snow so soft and so complete that by the first week of December, the world looked like it had been erased and redrawn in white chalk. The houses of Frostmere village, squat, square, timber-framed, huddled against the cold, like old women grasping shawls around their shoulders. This was the season when the last lantern was lit. Every year, a woman of the village was chosen to tend the lantern, to keep it burning through the hardest stretch of winter. They called her the Lantern Wife, though she didn't have to be married. The title was old, older than Frostmere, older than memory, passed down from mouth to mouth, like a story no one dared to change. Some said the lantern kept away despair. Some said it kept away spirits. Some said it kept the sun from forgetting to rise again. Whatever truth lay behind the tradition, no one questioned it. Not here, in this place, where the mountains rose like ancient teeth on all sides, and the nights stretched long and thin, like shadows that refused to die. And this year, the Lantern Wife was Mara Blythe. Mara did not feel worthy of the role. She was 35, tired, in a way bone doesn't forget, and grieving in the quiet, unremarkable way that some people do. No wailing, no spectacle, but a small, steady emptiness where a future used to be. Her marriage had ended in the spring, and though she had told everyone she was fine, she still sometimes caught her own reflection, looking surprised to be alone. She hadn't expected to be chosen. No one had expected her to be chosen. But the elders insisted the lantern chose its keeper, not the village. And the lantern had flickered, just once, a small pulse, when the elders said her name. So here she was, walking through the snow toward the lantern house at dusk, her boots sinking into the softness, her breath fogging the air. The mountain shadows stretched long across the path, and the first stars shivered awake overhead. She carried nothing but a wool cloak, her grandmother's gloves, and a small pouch of salt for protection, though she didn't really believe in such things. But tradition was tradition, and tonight she was part of one. The lantern house sat at the northern edge of Frostmere, where the pines were thick and the wind came down in long, low sighs. It wasn't a house so much as a stone lodge built around a single room. No windows, no interior walls, just one large hearth and a wooden pedestal carved with sigils whose meanings were long forgotten, where the last lantern stood. It didn't look like much, just a tall iron lantern, its metal almost blue with age, its glass panes clouded and warped. But when Mara stepped inside, she felt it. A warmth that wasn't physical, a hum barely above silence, like something aware of her presence. The elders left her with a nod and closed the heavy oak door behind them. Mara stood alone with the lantern. "Well," she whispered, "I suppose it's you and me." The flame flickered, delicate as a heartbeat. The job was simple, they'd told her. Keep the lantern lit. Keep watch. Do not leave. Speak truthfully when you can. and rest when the lantern dims. Mara had been confused by the last part. The lantern responds to the keeper, the oldest elder said, and sometimes the keeper needs to sleep. She hadn't known what that meant, but she learned. Through her first night, the lantern burned steadily, warm, gold, unwavering. Mara sat on a stool beside it, sipping tea, pulling her cloak tighter around her shoulders. She listened to the wind rattle over the stone walls and let her thoughts wander where they wanted, which meant they wandered to him, the man she used to love, to the life she thought she was building. The flame dimmed, not a lot, but visibly. Mara stiffened. No, I'm fine, she whispered. The flame dimmed further. She froze. You respond to that? She asked. The lantern brightened again, just barely. Oh, she laughed, a soft, disbelieving sound. You want honesty. The flame flared, warm enough to kiss her cheek. So she spoke, quietly, haltingly, into the brass and glass and aged iron. No, I'm not fine, she admitted. I keep saying I'm fine, but I'm tired, and I don't know who I am without being someone's someone. The lantern glowed, steady and listening. I'm not sure I even want to be chosen for anything anymore, she whispered. Not love, not partnership, not even this. But I'm here anyway. The lantern shone brighter, warm and gentle, as if approving. And that was the first night she slept in the lantern house, not because she'd planned to, but because the flame dimmed to a soft glow, and she felt her eyelids grow heavy without fear. The lantern kept its vigil. The role took shape slowly. Mara's days were simple, tending the flame, sweeping the floor, melting snow into water, leaving offerings of cedar and salt, and speaking honestly when the lantern seemed to ask. Villagers came sometimes, knocking softly on the door, not to bother her, but to stand near the lantern and whisper their hopes or their fears. She never judged. She simply let them sit in the quiet warmth and leave feeling lighter. The snow grew deeper, the days shorter, the dark longer, and the lantern grew brighter. But so did Mara. Something inside her, something dormant for months, began to reawaken. Not joy exactly, but awareness, presence, a sense that even in stillness, she was doing something meaningful. She dreamt more deeply too. Dreams of women carrying lanterns through forests, dreams of flames floating in the air like fireflies, dreams of hands, gentle, unseen, lighting wicks inside her chest. When she woke, she felt less alone. It was 7 nights before the solstice when the storm arrived. Not a normal storm, the kind she knew well enough, having lived in the mountains all her life, but something older, stranger, the kind that seemed to walk on legs rather than wind. The air grew sharp. The pines outside groaned like living things. The lantern's flame fluttered without reason, then steadied itself like someone bracing for impact. Mara felt the change before it came. She knelt beside the lantern and whispered, "What is it?" The flame shrank to the size of a coin. "Mara?" She turned. A young woman, Elsie, from the bakery, stood in the doorway, snow tangled in her braids. Her face was pale. "The storm," Elsie said. "The elders say it's the one from the old stories." Mara swallowed. "What old stories?" "The one that tries to put the lantern out." The wind screamed behind her, rattling the door. Elsie's eyes were wide. "They say if the lantern goes dark." "I know," Mara said softly, though she didn't. Not exactly. But she felt the truth deep inside her bones. If the lantern went dark, something would enter the valley. Something hungry. "Go home," Mara told her gently. "Stay with your family." Elsie nodded and ran. Mara barred the door. When the storm arrived, the wind smashed against the stone, shaking the lantern house like a bell. Snow forced its way through the cracks in the windowless walls, spiraling into the room, as if the storm wanted to get at her, or at the flame. The lantern sputtered. "No," Mara whispered, cupping her hands around it, though she couldn't touch the flame directly. "Stay with me." The storm shrieked. The lantern shuddered. The flame shrank to a trembling spark. "Please," she whispered. "I can't lose anything else this year." The lantern dimmed further. Mara closed her eyes. "I'm scared," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm scared. I can't do this. I'm scared I'm not strong enough. I'm scared that I've spent so long pretending I'm okay that I don't know how to be anything else." The storm pounded, wind howling like a creature as old as the mountains. "I'm scared," she whispered again, "that I don't know how to begin again." And at that exact moment, the lantern flared, not gently, not softly, but with a sudden, roaring brightness that filled the entire room with gold. The storm outside reeled back as if struck. The wind quieted in an instant. The room went still. Mara opened her eyes. The lantern was burning with a fire she had never seen. Bright, steady, unshaken. And for the first time, Mara wondered if the flame was not something she protected, but something that protected her. When dawn finally arrived, pale, pink, and cautious, the storm had vanished without a trace. No wind, no fresh snow, no tracks. Just an eerie stillness, like the whole valley was holding its breath. Mara pushed open the door of the lantern house. The village looked untouched, a quiet painting of rooftops and drifting smoke. She expected people to be gathered outside, shaken or whispering. But Frostmere was calm. Only one thing marked the night as different. Every window glowed with candlelight, as if the whole village had held vigil with her. Mara stepped into the snow, her breath curling upward. Then she heard it, a distant knock, as if someone pushed a door across the square. Then another. Then another. Soon, villagers started emerging, blinking at the soft morning light. Elsie from the bakery waved to her from her porch, a blanket around her shoulders. "The storm stopped all at once," she called. "It was like the wind died mid-breath." Mara nodded, unsure how to explain that she had felt the shift inside her own ribs at the exact moment the lantern flared. She returned to the lantern house. The flame burned steady, strong, almost proud. She sat beside it, letting the warmth seep into her gloves. "You protected the whole valley," she murmured. The lantern flickered, a small, almost bashful motion. as if embarrassed to be praised. Mara laughed softly. You don't have to be modest. You're ancient and powerful. A long pause. Then, a single bright flare. Well, she sighed, leaning back in her chair. That confirms it. You like compliments. From that morning on, the lantern behaved differently. It wasn't just a flame anymore. It was responsive. When Mara woke feeling heavy, the flame dimmed. When she felt hopeful, it brightened. When a villager came to the door with a burden to speak aloud, the light swelled as if hungry to listen. The lantern wasn't a tool. It wasn't even a guardian. It was a mirror. And Mara, without meaning to, began to open more and more of herself to it. On the 11th night, she said, I'm still sad. It doesn't show as much, but it's still inside me. I don't want him back. I just want the version of life I thought I was building. The lantern glowed warm and golden. On the 12th night, I'm trying to be gentle with myself. I don't really know how yet. The lantern hummed softly, a vibration in the air. On the 13th night, the night before the longest night, I'm ready for something new. I'm afraid of it, but I'm ready. The lantern blazed as bright as a sunrise. But not everything was peaceful. Mara began to feel something calling her. It had started with a dream. She stood in a vast black forest, snow falling in slow motion. A line of lights, lanterns like her own, glowed between the trunks, leading deeper and deeper into the trees. She woke with the sense that someone had whispered her name just before she opened her eyes. The next night, the same dream came again. This time, the lanterns were held by women, silhouettes with cloaks of frost and hair like smoke. One lifted her lantern to her face, and though Mara couldn't see her features clearly, she felt a rush of recognition. On the third night, she didn't dream at all. Instead, she woke to the lantern house door creaking open on its own. A cold draft swept across the floor. The lantern's flame flickered wildly, like a creature straining against its leash. No, Mara whispered, standing up quickly. Not now. The wind pushed the door wider, urging her. She grabbed her cloak, her gloves, a small tin of embers, and the lantern itself. The flame inside shifted. Once, twice, like a heartbeat, syncing with her own. Mara stepped outside. The forest stood silent and waiting. The snow was deep, rising almost to her knees, but the lantern light cut through the dark easily. Pines towered overhead, their branches heavy with snow, their trunks casting long shadows that seemed to breathe. Mara followed the faint path, a path she had never taken before, one that didn't lead to any village footpaths or hunting trails. The forest was quiet. No wind, no animals, no sound except her own footsteps and the soft pulse of the lantern flame. After about an hour, the trees thinned, opening into a clearing, not a natural one, a perfect circle. At the center stood a tall stone archway, cracked with age, covered in runes she didn't recognize. Snow coated its top, and frost crept up its weathered sides. This was old magic, older than Frostmere, older than any human settlement. Mara felt her breath hitch. The lantern flared bright enough to paint the snow gold. And stepping through the arch, shape by shape, came the lantern women from her dreams. They wore cloaks of shadow and frost, their lanterns glowing blue-white, soft as starlight. Their faces were obscured, not hidden, but shimmering, like reflections in moving water. One stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was everywhere at once. Above, below, inside. Lantern wife. Mara's jaw clenched. What am I meant to do? The figure lifted her lantern. Light spilled over Mara's face, warm and knowing. You have already done it. Mara frowned. I don't understand. A second woman stepped forward. The lantern chose you, but we carried it first. Long before the town was built, long before men called winter a season instead of a spirit. Mara's breath fogged in front of her. Why me? The woman's voice softened. Because you were broken. Mara flinched. The flame in her lantern dimmed in sympathy. Another voice, gentle, almost apologetic, followed. Not broken as in damaged, broken open. The first woman added, the lantern only chooses those who no longer pretend, those who have walked through the dark season and survived it. Mara swallowed, throat tight. I didn't walk. I crawled. The women nodded as one. Crawling counts. The first woman extended her hand. Give it to me. Mara hesitated, then held out the lantern. The woman lifted it to eye level. The flame inside shifted from gold to blue to something like molten silver. This is not an outer flame. It is the inner one. Mara blinked. My inner one? All lantern wives carry their own fire. The lantern does not burn for the village unless the keeper burns first. Mara felt something stir in her chest, a warmth she hadn't recognized before, or perhaps hadn't dared to. Another woman stepped close. Her lantern illuminated Mara's heart, like a sunrise spreading through stone. You have been grieving. You have been healing. The flame mirrors the truth of you, not the lie you once offered the world. Mara whispered, What truth is that? The forest leaned in, the air held still. The woman answered with a voice that sounded like a winter river breaking free of ice, that you are not done, that you are not over, that your life is not the rubble of what was lost, but the soil of what is next. A sob tore from Mara's throat, not a sad one, a releasing one. Her lantern blazed bright. The first woman reached into her cloak and pulled out a small object, a tiny shard of ice, glowing pale blue. This is the seed of continuation, she said, the fire that burns after the hurt, the ember of beginning. The lantern women have carried it since before names existed. She placed the ice shard into Mara's lantern. It did not melt. Instead, the flame inside split, one part staying gold, the other burning blue, intertwining like two threads, being braided back together. Mara stared at it, breath catching. What happens now? The woman stepped back. Now you return. Now you carry the flame into the longest night. And when the year turns, her voice softened, warm as a hand on a shoulder. So will you. The women stepped backward through the arch. One by one, their lanterns dimmed and dissolved into drifting light. The archway faded. the clearing smoothed over with falling snow. Within seconds, Mara stood alone. She looked down at the lantern. The flame inside pulsed, gold and blue braided together, strong, steady, unmistakably alive. She whispered, "I'm ready," and the lantern glowed in answer. I hope you enjoyed listening to our special storytelling episode as much as I enjoyed recording it for you. If you'd like more Host Read stories, you can find them at bloodmoonradio.com in the After Midnight membership area. After Midnight gives you access to all membership tiers, including Host Read stories, voice notes, and exclusive photo sets. And until next time, remember, the truth echoes louder after dark, whispered, unfiltered, waiting to be touched. See you soon.